I am shocked. I have always thought that in this table we interact with the normal people, and the president and the deputy is alienated to the reality. But looks like some of the supporters of Kenya Kwanza government like Becky are also alienated from this reality. When you talk about every time the people of Kenya has complained, what has been the response from the government? It has not been to, ameliorate their problems. Every time you complain about cost of living, you're told NHIF has gone up. Every time, Anki, you come and say, the cost has gone up, they say, no, now we have introduced 50 CS. Every time we complain here, they say now we have allocated 1 billion to Mudavadi to actually run an illegal office. Every time we complain, every time Kenyans complain on this table, we are slapped again now with a finance bill.
The finance bill 2023, if passed the way it is, will see total deductions of up to 52% of one's monthly earnings.
Is it that the government wants to borrow from workers?
It is clear the robbery.
This government is there to oppress the hustlers.
Doctors are here, Wasu is here, Kusu is here, Kupet, Nat. Will you manage? Because we are going to call the mother of all strikes.
All right, gentlemen.
Anki, allow me to finish what I wanted to say. And Wakili Okach said something about taxing, that even developed countries don't tax that high, which is a lie. Denmark, in fact, the higher you earn, the more you're taxed. Yeah, and in East Africa, I think Kenya is one of the countries that we pay less taxes, comparing the East African community countries. And then on the issue of on a lighter note, on the issue of the people making decisions on or advising the president rather on what angle or what direction to take on this taxing issue, it's not up to us to debate it here, and we shouldn't have a problem with it, but we should even be in a position to add and give more advice on what we think needs to be done for that to be able to be achieved. If we sit here and critique and say Kenya Kwanza has done a mistake with putting the house tax this much, at the end of the day Kenyans are suffering, and you don't give a solution, it's not something that we can say you're adding value to the conversation. You're not adding value, but you're criticizing. It is okay to criticize, but there's something called positive criticism. Yes, Kenya Kwanza is failing here. This is what Kenya Kwanza needs to do. What is the solution? You see, in all these things, Buka, as he continue giving his ideas and stating his mind, he does not give any solution. He takes advantage and enjoys in the ride of mimicking and looking down on the achievement and the plans a government has without giving a solution. He calls himself a vice chair of a political party that is yet to grow and flow. If he can't give solutions at this point, if he can't see into the inner readings, why did Kenya Kwanza decide to do this? Why did the president decide to do this? Yes, the cost of living is high in Kenya, but do we run away from the future? You don't tell me as a father or as a parent or as a mother in a home, you'll not want to think of how to secure your children in the next 7 days, despite the fact on how hard you're struggling to live. Will you let it go and say, okay, fine, this is the situation of my family at the moment, so right, let things go the way they want to go? Is it wrong for a head of state to be able to sit and think of a way of finding a solution to the end, at the end of this day? What is the most impactful thing that I have to do that will affect the future positively?
All right, I want to come back to you, and you've posed a lot of questions to Book at this point in time, and I also did ask if you feel that this is overtaxation at this point in time, what are the alternatives? That is also another question. You will give you the floor to just share that with us as well.
Thank you, Anki. First of all, let me correct a few things, because you see, Begi has to look at taxation vis-a-vis service. Because now he's talking about high taxation of the Nordic countries, particularly he's mentioning Denmark. But Denmark is a welfare state. That means each and every person in Denmark is entitled to decent housing. And even if you pay 50% of your tax, then the services are guaranteed. Kenya is not a welfare state.
Okay.
The state that President Ruto currently leads is actually a billionaire state. It's a dictatorship of the rich in this country. And Begi cannot claim that taxing the poor people to increase the share for the billionaires will then make Kenya a better place. So that was not an important point. The second thing, the second thing,
every Kenyan is being taxed, not poor people. And you know, Buka, you
thing,
cannot pin this thing every time on poor people because you want to run away with something that you want to mention.
In fact, I am shocked. I have always thought that in this table we interact with the normal people, and the president and the deputy is alienated to the reality. But looks like some of the supporters of Kenya Kwanza government like Beki are also alienated from this reality. When you talk about every time the people of Kenya has complained, what has been the response from the government? It has not been to, ameliorate their problems. Every time you complain about cost of living, you're told NHIF has gone up. Every time, Anki, you come and say, the cost has gone up, they say, no, now we have introduced 50 CS. Every time we complain here, they say now we have allocated 1 billion to Mudavadi to actually run an illegal office. Every time we complain, every time Kenyans complain on this table, we are slapped again now with a finance bill. So what we are trying to say to the Kenya Kwanza government, that there are areas that they can make taxation without actually injuring the interest of the minority in this country, the majority in this country. And I will propose certain solutions to the Kenya Kwanza government, which can work out. First of all, tax on inheritance, because there are many people, in fact, the rich that transfer money after they are dead to their children. We should have at least 80% one of tax, especially if you are inheriting more than 10 million shillings, because that means you're transferring domination from one to the other. So instead of expanding the tax bracket to tax the poor more, you should also increase the tax budget to tax the rich even more. The second thing is the corporate tax should be even, because the corporate tax is the residue after paying everything else. So, for example, countries, the multinationals in these countries that are making billions of money, they should pay more corporate tax, not tax on individuals. And then the other one is the Kenya Kwanza government must reduce all taxes on basic commodities. For example, this issue, the Kenya Kwanza President Ruto, and I don't know why Beg is not seeing that, because if you look at the first attack was on fuel. They removed the levy. Now, after you remove, not the fuel levy, they removed the subsidies. After removing the subsidies, you increase the VAT. And this is the production sector. Remember, the Kenya Kwanza rhetoric has always been, we are subsidizing the production and only taxing the services. But at the moment in the finance bill, Beg, can tell you, the cost of living is going to even go up. So let us not be alienated from the reality, from the people that, unless these prayers that are taking place in government are praying for them to tax even more people to solve solutions. So before I hand over to Okach.
Yes.
So on public resources, what we will want that even the Kenyan people do not have a problem with taxation. Let those taxation be commensurate to the services that are being offered with government. And on loans, Beki is not right. The Kenya Kwanza government has overseen several, billions of money in terms of loans. So if he wants to say that the loans were accumulated from the last regime, he's only trying to, divert the attention of the listeners.
This is Legrand from Simple Generations.